Oh man, oh boy. So I just beat Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and my god, people, this game invokes so much emotions in you while playing. It is not even funny. Like, I don't know, I'm not a sad sap or whatever, but I just like good stories, and when I can say it's a good story, I want to say it's not that complex, but you get the message from it. It's very good. It's very good at what it does, and it does it pretty well. This is going to be an off-the-cuff review of it. Anything you see here is going to be substitute change for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I'm going to have, it's going to be slightly edited, you know, I'm going to cut some stuff in there. You'll see how this goes. But, yeah, man, the game, like, official appearances of the game. I played Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I loved it. It was pretty good, man. I thought, oh, maybe something else is going to happen in here, continue on the story, which it kind of did, and it kind of didn't. This game sets place on Ionios, which to me is the land. Well, it's like, I'm not sure what happened in the first Xenoblade Chronicles, but this is the land that happened at the end of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Because you can see all the Titans that was there, and you see some inklings and hints because the stuff merged together from the different worlds. But you start off, the game's main premise is these group of people, you know, they have this power, Ouroboros, and they defy fate, in a sense, or their fate from Mobius, which is the main bad guys of the game. You know, they're trying to stop them from trying to figure out why they keep reincarnating. What's their purpose in life? Because they only get 10 years and they're forced to fight from their queens. And it's like behind my enemy is another enemy kind of trope, which is pretty well done. But I gotta say, man, it's like this game, it teaches you so much stuff to be appreciative for, man. Like, some stuff, you know, some stuff's not plausible, like pretty much move forward in life and all that kind of thing. It's like, oh my god, like the stakes that these characters go through and their backstories for how they come out is just staggering. Like, good lord, man. And I'm just talking off the cuff. I'm gonna get my final review at the very end. I'm gonna give a more detailed version of this like later on or some shit. But oh my god, man, like the main character Noah is complex in a sense, because you figure out midway in the game that one of the bad guys that similarly looks like you is pretty much him in another life. That's he's like his own reincarnation, has the memories. He keeps reincarnating to stop the fate, to save his girl, save his wife Mio. And their shit, dude, every scene with them in it is fucking tear jerkers. I'm talking about balling, dude. I'm like, oh my god, it's crazy. You know, even though they have their kind of cheesy moments, I started playing in Japanese first, and I said, you know, let me listen to the English version. And I know then I have to read all the subtitles. The English version is good too, but it's like the stuff that they go through, them specifically, is just hellish. Because, all right, I'm just gonna talk about spoilers. I don't care if you guys watch this. This is way late. This is off the cuff, like partway through the game, you figure out the guy his name is In. Turns out that you're him, but it's your reincarnated life from back then, because he chose the bad ending and decided to keep everything still so everyone's reincarnating and stuff like that. He sided with the bad guys. He only did that so he can save his wife from dying, because he was tired of this shit. Because like he had a kid, they had a life together, past lives, they kept reliving it, meeting, getting separated over and over and over again. That's what it turned out to be. So he ended up going with Mobius, which are the bad guys. He said, if you do this, he's like, he pretty much offered him a solution, because at that point he was broke. He couldn't do anything anymore. So he went with them, the world stood still, and they can live, but they still gotta do what he says, because, you know, he's Mobius, he's the big bad. And then you meet the main character, like Noah and M, which is Mio, and their back and forth dialogue is just so epic, man. I'm like, yo, you doing all this? He's sitting there trying to convince him that what he's doing is wrong, and eventually you do all this throughout the game, and eventually Mio dies anyway. And I'm like, I wish I had my reaction to it, but because I was playing off screen, and she just They had this whole scene. They end up getting captured. To save them, you had to go with them. They went to go save her. They get beat. Then they got thrown in prison because at that time she only lasted 3 months, and it was 3 months of them in the cell just trying to break out. Just boom, boom. Gotta get out. You gotta save her. You gotta save her. But you couldn't do it. It was just over. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, dude, that scene was powerful. And ultimately, she ended up dying. At that point, boom. Your main character's just heartbroken. Just he couldn't go on anymore. Because at that point he's heard things kind of like that. But turns to find out, because before that fight, when you figured out everything was hopeless, you fight M, which is the old reincarnation of her that then the main dude N saved. And they did a switcheroo. She pretty much, the Mio that was with N a long time ago, pretty much switched bodies with her. Because that whole time she wanted to die. Because she didn't want to live forever. And N was going insane. I'm talking about N was basically, he was just going off, man. He's like, no, he did all this for you. I did all this for you. You guys have to see that cutscene. If you haven't played it, this is spoiler territory because this is off the cuff. I'm just now coming out and playing the game. I just saw the credits like 10 minutes ago. Like, that is one of the best scenes I've seen in an RPG game. And I'm like, oh my God, the music was going, the dialogue. He was like, yeah, you can't do anything about it, man. You just gotta let it flow, man. To protect the flow, you have to let this happen. But nah, man. The main dude, Noah, he wasn't having it. And he just, without spoiling way too much, this is like a pivotal point, chapter 5 of the game. It's like he basically had a weapon they had at the beginning of the game called he had the Lucky 7, which is the sword of the end, ultimately, which pretty much, made out this thing, origin. I'm not going to talk about that, but I'm just talking about, this is just a story portion, and ultimately you find out that the queen was also a robot. I know I'm skipping because it's Kevis and Agnes throughout the main game. You're Kevis, Mio is part of Agnes, and you guys eternally fight over and over and over again. Just because at the beginning of the game, there's two universes collide, which is Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. The worlds collide and you made this thing, and it was like a mixed piss podge of both worlds in general, but they use the same land from 2. So what they ended up doing, they fought the queen of Kevis, which is how you met N, ultimately, because N was always in the shadows with Mobius, and you figured out she was a robot. They're like, wait, what? You're a robot? And it's like, oh wow, and that took to a story to a whole, because you thought it was Amelia from Xenoblade Chronicles 1, but no, it was a robot the whole time. And he's like, what are you gonna get to do? Blah 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 blah. He did his evil monologue. He does what he does. So he cuts it to shit. You guys escape. Did roundabout. You end up getting caught, and you find out too, before you figure out she's dying, 3 months. You then get captured. You find out that the queen of Agnes, which is Nia from Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Spoiler alert. This is a spoiler review. I'm gonna have an edited one, like I said before. I'm gonna do that for Saints Row though. And they pretty much just figure out she's a robot too. And you're like, at that point in the game, you're like, wait, what the hell is going on? What the fuck is going on? He knows getting betrayed by his Mio, figure out she's dying. And you're like, okay, something big is going on. You can't trust either faction, because at the very beginning of the game, how you got your powers, Ouroboros, there's a guy named Vandam. Of course, Vandam, like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Vandam, same name. They're like in between. They're not affected by the flame clocks, which are the things that basically take your life after you die, go back to the queen, because you're born from the queens, and you get reborn in the cradles. Both of you guys get reborn every single time. That's why you continuously fight with the Pharaonis and all that. All right, so fast forward, you can't trust both factions. You find a tertiary faction that you initially fought at the beginning of the game that you didn't know what was happening, because he said he entrusted the world to you, and he pretty much turns the world upside down. You figure out what's really going on, and he was like, okay, we gotta find the queen. We have to find the queen, the real queens, and get their help to stop Mobius, which is the rulers of this world, if they want time to stand still. That's the whole premise of the game, to pretty much separate your worlds and go back to the way they were. But by God, this ending, well, wow, this ending was a tear jerker. I'm talking about, I'm sitting there watching, slightly tearing up. I'm like, damn, because at that point in the game, you know the main two characters, like you learn that the N and M, the Mio, the Noah, you're the two main characters. Oh, screen went down. You learn that the two main characters loved each other. They had a family in the past life. And there's a back part where your character's, I don't say losing, you see, like, after he gets defeated, you see what happens. They had a kid. He had to leave his kid to live on in their world. This is gonna be some fuckery. His kid to live on in the world. He's like, yeah, because his kid wanted to see his mom or whatever. He had to let his son go in the forest, and he ended up dying. His son ended up living because he's not to the flame clock. He does not reincarnate like that. As far as I know, I think he did, but... And ultimately, before the choice that was made, I know I'm skipping, but he let his son go. But when he reincarnated again to save his wife, there was a choice he had to make. He had to kill his son's descendants. He had to kill his own descendants with him and his wife and his kid. Kill him just to save his wife. That was some bullshit, bro. I'm talking about this motherfucker did not... Yo, N is scary when he's pissed. He's sitting there slicing, cutting, killing him. Took out the whole thing, and his wife was like, she wanted to be with him, but not like this. And she's just going off like, dude, you can't do that. The dialogue is such good, man. It's so good. In Japanese and in English. Japanese one is more powerful. But ultimately, you end up saving the world at the end, bring it back. I'm just thinking, everything's popping in my head. You just save the world. At the very end of the game, you guys are having, like, because I'm just thinking, this is just the main two. I'm not talking about the side characters, which are great in their own right, but for story purposes, we're just talking about the main two. They basically had their own talks, like what they're gonna do, and they had to separate. Because at that point, the worlds are separating, and you have to just deal with it, man. You have to move forward in life. And that's the message, man. You can do some hard things, but you have to move forward. There's so much stuff that can be derived from this game. It's not even funny. So for story bits, the game, I would say 5 out of 5. For story, it's 5 out of 5 for me. It's so much message in there for story, 5 out of 5. But, oh man, the ending scene, when they're trying to get back together with each other, they're sitting there running across space-time trying to get back together so they can be with their friends, man. Brutal. That scene right there is brutal. So story 5 out of 5. And I will talk about gameplay. I want to say the gameplay is solid enough, but there are certain bits that suffered for me. Like, you get the occasional targeting system's been messing up, you know, and now I'm trying to wrap this up. You get the targeting system that's wrapped up, like, oh, I'm sitting there targeting this guy, and if I'm back too far, I can't, when I'm swinging, I can't hit them. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, and trying to get your certain ultimate attack in, you have to do certain things, but some bosses and stuff, it locks you out for you attacking these certain enemies, and you can't do some things like that. Cool. You know, running around. I wish the movement speed was faster sometimes, because the levels are huge. I'm talking about mega huge. Like, you could do so much stuff. But it's like, man, the gameplay mixed in with the story has implications, which is pretty good. Pretty solid. It's better than Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and it's way better than Xenoblade Chronicles 1. You know, you have the two factions, they have different sets of stuff they can do, different sets of skills, different hero sets. Like, this character, you can only increase your gauge by attacking, while the other one increases over time, which is pretty good. They mixed both games together because they're different factions that come from different worlds that do different things, which is pretty good. So I would say that's 4 out of 5. Besides that targeting system, pretty bad, you know, but it's overall solid enough for the game. So I want to say I'm skipping, but you know, this is just off the cuff. I'm not trying to delve into, so I just gotta have something to upload. I'm not trying to delve into something deep like that. For me, I would give this game out of 10, I would give this game a 9 out of 10. For me specifically, I like RPG games, but this game's story, in a sense, gives me a new perspective on things. Like, I took a lot out of this, man. Like, honestly, I could, like, for the main villain, I couldn't fault the villain for doing something like that, because I know I've thought about stuff like that. Like, you know what? I don't want to think about death and all that kind of stuff. What would things be like if everything stood still? Would I like, at that point I was like, would I make the same choice as In? Would I make the same choice as Mobius? Maybe. Like, that was the whole thing. It's perspective. You understand the enemy and see why they do stuff like that. It's like that shit, man. I was like, dude, fuck, man. That game right there, it's gonna be in my top 20 games of all time. Maybe top 15. I'm not saying top 10, but story-wise, it's really good. If you like Xenosaga or Xenoblade stuff like that, there's layers. There's, like, this game, there's layers to it, man. You see this perspective, you see that perspective, why they're doing this, and God, man, I'm skipping so much, but the ultimate thing is, like, it's just, I don't know, man. I recommend playing this game. It's just a review. It's not a real review. This is not, I'm not gonna edit anything. This is just off the cuff of my emotions of how I'm feeling with the game towards later on, you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna be playing post game, which is cool, off screen, and then we'll see how that goes. The next game I'm gonna be playing is gonna be Saints Row Reboot, and that's the one I know people have been wanting to see a detailed thing from me. But I was playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and I recommend this game to everybody. You probably won't get as deep as it is with me, you know. Like, I think about stuff randomly all the time, like, oh, this is a different perspective that I like to hear, you know. It's different. That's all I'm gonna say. So yeah, man, this is the first review. I don't know if I'm gonna top it, you know. This is just off the cuff. I'll have an edited format for the second one for Saints Row, which is gonna be really well edited if I complete the game, because I heard the game's, you know. So Xenoblade Chronicles 3, ultimately, again, I give it a 9 out of 10. Must play for fans, RPG fans, something different. And yeah, so yeah, guys, like, share, subscribe. Nia Noah and Neo forever. Good game. Tyon, Senna, Lance, Uni. You guys are great, man. I love you guys, voice actors, man. Good job making this game Monolith Soft, and 9 out of 10, guys. So like, share, subscribe. Hopefully you give me another review. This is just off the cuff. It's not official, like I said before. And I'm really scatterbrained. I just want to get something out there. All right, y'all. Like, share, subscribe, and peace. And see me for the next while I'm playing Saints Row Reboot. All right, y'all. Peace.